Okay, just kidding. All right, good afternoon. This will serve as our 30-second 1-minute warning. I didn't know anybody could actually copyright the phrase 2-minute warning, but I guess the NFL managed to copyright that this year. Is the reason you don't have a 2-minute warning in college football. You have the 2-minute timeout. But thank everyone. That's your odd information for the day. I'll go ahead and call this to order then. Thank everybody for settling in for us. My name's Chuck Martin. I serve House District 49 in North Fulton County, the cities of Roswell, Alpharetta, and Milton. And the Speaker and the Committee on Assignments has honored me with the opportunity to serve as chair of a fine group of individuals on our committee. So I thank you all for attending and do call this meeting to order. Welcome everybody here. We have a number of people in the audience today from the university system. I know we have one or more college presidents here. I want to, without specifically calling anyone out because I will invariably miss someone, I want to welcome you all and say that you're welcome at our committee or in our offices at any time. We appreciate the work you do in the university system. We appreciate the technical college system of Georgia and the associated agencies. We'll later hear from President Lynn Riley with the Georgia Student Finance Commission, all the people that day to day do the very important task of running our post-secondary education here in the state. Just as a point of introduction, I want to say again that it's my honor to represent 49 as my colleagues, and I think everything that's done at the Capitol is very important and impacts people. I think this is one of the committees in the House that has the opportunity to multiply their efforts because I think we impact people that impact people. More than in some areas, and I'm very, very thankful for that. At the risk of making this meeting go much longer than it should on this Wednesday afternoon, I want to give the opportunity to bring welcome to, where are you? Matthew Gamble, Governor's Floor Leader, I believe is our only new member on the committee. And I let Representative Gamble know that generally for our committee, the new members buy lunch at the first meeting. And usually that's not a bad thing. They split it between 4 or 5 or 6 new members. This year he is the only new member. So Matthew will be picking up the tab. So look to eat light. I'm joking, Matthew, but take a moment and tell us about you and please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's good to be on the Higher Education Committee and serving here. My grandfather told me when I was 17 years old, he put his arm on my shoulder and he said, "Son, don't ever forget where you came from." And a long time ago, I was an intern on this committee, and I have been used to getting coffee and bills and all that, so getting lunch is not a problem. I can handle sandwiches, whatever you need, but I look forward to serving. Thank you. I'm from Cartersville.
Thank you, Representative. I'm going to be also ask if we can just start, and I'll start with Chairman Dickey down here. If you could just give everybody a brief introduction and tell us where you're from and why you're here.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. Glad to be back for another year under your leadership here at the Higher Education Committee. I'm Robert Dickey, District 134 in Middle Georgia. 4 counties, Lamar, Upson, Peach, in Crawford County. So I do a little peach farming when I'm not up here working on higher education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sam Park. I represent House District 107 in Gwinnett County. That includes the cities of Lawrenceville and Sewanee. Also serve as a minority whip. I think I've served on this committee for going on 9 years now, and so it's been an honor and pleasure to serve on this committee with under Chairman Martin.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back. 2 years of serving with Chuck Martin, our chairman, and I'm Representative Lydia Glaze out in District 67, which is the end of South Fulton and the north end of Coweta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to serve on this committee. I'm Representative Jenny Earhart. I represent the northwestern corner of Cobb County, which is Ackworth, Powder Springs, Kennesaw, and a little slice of Marietta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Dale Washburn, House District 144. I live in Macon, and I represent part of Bibb County, part of Monroe County, all of Jasper County, part of Putnam County, and part of Jones County. I've been honored to be on the Higher Education Committee under Chairman Martin's leadership since I came to the House 6 years ago, and so I'm honored to be here another year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, that's right. You've already said yours. Hi, I'm Edna Jackson, and I represent the hostess city of the South, Savannah, Georgia. I represent most of the Thunderbolt area as well as the city, some of the county. So it's District 165. I used to serve as the mayor of the city, the great city of Savannah. But it's just a pleasure. I didn't think I would like being on this committee, but this committee accomplished a whole lot of things that we need to be involved in, and our chairman is doing a tremendous job. Anytime you can find somebody and just say, I need to talk to you about something, that's very important. So that's what it is, and I have a lot of things to talk to him about while we're on it. Thank you very much for the job that you do.
Thank you, Representative. Keep those cards and letters coming. Representative Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Betsy Holland. I represent House District 54, which is in Fulton County. It's parts of Atlanta and Sandy Springs, and I've had the delight of being on this committee since 2019. I don't think any of my other chairmen are here, so I can say I think this is my favorite committee, Mr. Chairman.
Fair enough, and the lady knows how to deliver it, right? Representative Barnes, which number are you? Two down there? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, am honored to serve on this committee. My name is Representative Imani Barnes. I represent Emory, Toco Hills, Tucker, Clarkston, Stone Mountain, and a little of Decatur. I'm, again, honored to serve on this committee because we get a lot of good stuff done, and I hope we can continue that here. Thank you.
Representative, and I'm going to go to and introduce to my right, my immediate right, Carter Barrett is our vice chairman this year. Casey Carpenter is our secretary. Representative Carpenter is not, Chairman Carpenter is not available this afternoon, but oh, there you are. All right, well, we'll get with you. That's and that's why we love Chairman Carpenter. But I'm going to first tell you that Carter Barrett is our vice chairman, and he's going to tell us a little bit about Forsyth County. And our secretary down there in number 12, Representative Casey Carpenter.
Thank you, Chairman. Casey Carpenter, City of Dalton in the south end of Whitfield County. Big fan of this committee, been on it a few years, had some really heavy legislation through it a few times, been denied a few times, but it's been a pleasure being in this room with always treated fairly, just doesn't always work out. But no, in all seriousness, I appreciate, big fan of both the public and the private universities and colleges in our state, and it's always a pleasure to work with each and every one of you in the room to make our kids smarter and our workforce better. So thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Carpenter, and you actually tied in the next group of people that I was going to mention as we do this. After we recognize our USG and TSG, and our members here is our private sector universities, and their representatives are here with us, and perhaps some people from the individual universities I've already met with earlier this year. It takes the entire infrastructure to make it work, and we appreciate all of you. Moving on in our agenda, we have three additional things. The next order of business I would like is you have our 25-26 higher education rules before you. It is the chair's position, and I believe I am correct in saying this. I don't know if Ms. Valentine is still with us, but these are the same rules that we have used in our previous in 23-24, with the exception of Rule 2, a quorum. I have dropped that. I would suggest and offer to you to drop that from 13 members down to 9. If the committee will recall, on several occasions last year when things got busy, we had to hold 12 people in the room looking for a 13th. So I think 9 members would allow us to continue that. I mean, I will say this, and I said it to the minority whip, and I would say this to the majority and the minority members of the committee. It is not the chair's intent. It has never been and will never be to, stack a room, the right way on a controversial bill. I mean, my goal is to have everybody, as many members as we can have here at every meeting, but I know from time to time things do get busy. So that would be my change that I would suggest, and ask if anyone has questions on the rules as they are presented. Any questions? If they're not, you have before you the 20. Is there? If there are no questions, you have before you the 2025-26 Higher Education Committee rules. What's the pleasure of the committee in regard to these? I have a motion and a second that these rules do pass. Is there discussion? Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. That is, the rules are approved, unanimous. Moving on then, I'm going to ask President Lynn Riley from the Georgia Finance Commission to come forward at the place of your choosing. You wish to sit or stand? Okay, at the podium mic then, I would recognize for a presentation President Lynn Riley, the Georgia Student Finance Commission. Commissioner Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. It's an honor to be with you again this year, and I'm here today to talk about the Georgia College Completion Grant Program. We have distributed to you the FY 2024 Pattern and Trends Report. Members that are listening online or others in the audience that would like to view a copy of this report, it is available at our website, gsfc.org, under About GFC, Annual Reports. So today I'll just speak to some highlights of findings that are included in this report, and I'll be happy to stand ready for questions after I run through some highlights. Well, first I'll start off with what the eligibility requirements are for students to receive a Georgia College Completion Grant. First, the student must be currently enrolled at a USG, TCSG, or participating private post-secondary institution. They must have completed at least 80% of the credit requirements for credential attainment in the credential that they are pursuing. They must have an unmet financial need, and the college or university will select them to receive a completion grant. That is not something that student finance does. The institutions will designate which students would best benefit from funding to get them across the finish line to complete their credential. The awarded funds, once the student has been selected by the institution, will be paid by Georgia Student Finance Commission to the institution. The money does not flow to the student, but goes directly to the institution. And there are no merit requirements for this program. This is strictly based on an unmet financial need to get the student across that finish line to complete their credential. And there's a lifetime maximum award per recipient of $2,500. Many of you recall voting on this bill back a few years ago when it was first initiated. It was passed to be a pilot program for 3 fiscal years. The first fiscal year of the program was FY23, and in that year, $7.3 million were awarded to just under 6,900 students, 6,000 students, and just under 6,900 awards. So of the $10 million that was appropriated for that first year, $7.3 million was awarded. 50% of those recipients were Pell Grant eligible from the feds. 58% of those recipients did complete their credential during the period that they were receiving an award. Granted, if a student does not consume the full $2,500 in the first award, they are eligible for additional allotments up into that $2,500 maximum. So many students that may not have completed their credential in that first award year have potentially completed that in a subsequent year. 94.6% of the credit hours that were attempted by the students who received awards were successfully earned by the students. So 95% of the hours taken did receive credit by these students. Over 34,000 credit hours in that first year. Some funds were not used in that fiscal year by many of the institutions, and I'll speak up to the variety of factors why they weren't fully utilized in a few moments. But those funds were allowed to be allocated to other institutions that had additional students would need, or those funds carried over to the second year of the program to be awarded along with the second year's appropriation. So in the second year of the program, FY 2024, we had a carryover of just about $2.7 million that rolled over on top of the $10 million appropriation. And of that $12.7 million, $10.9 million was awarded in the second year of the program. 8,860 students benefited, and 10,000 awards were issued in the second year. Again, 50% of the students were Pell eligible, and 58% completed their credential in the first year of award. And in the second year of the program, 93% of the credit hours, 52,850 credit hours, were earned by students on the way to their credential attainment. And again, we had a little bit of unused capacity of dollars that were available to award in the second year, and they rolled over to this year, which is our current year 3 of the 3-year program. So beginning in July 1 of this current fiscal year, we had $11.8 million that were available for awards. At this point, at mid-year, we currently are watching and tracking the utilization. We believe all of that money will likely go out the door this year. As I mentioned, this was a 3-year program when it was approved by the General Assembly, and it will sunset this June 30th, 2025. However, Governor Kemp's budget for FY 2026 has an appropriation recommendation for $10 million for this program to continue, and I know Chairman Martin has some legislation to discuss with you today in that regard. We did do surveys of the institutions that were participating in the program to ask them about their experience, and they offered some very good insights to us. The primary concern that was expressed across all sectors, USG, TCSG, and the privates, was the 80-cent completion threshold is a significant barrier to full utilization of this program. I'll start with TCSG. For example, TCSG institutions forfeited or lapsed most of their allocation in the first 2 years because they did not have sufficient number of students that would meet all of this eligibility criteria. And if you think about it, a TCSG program is typically 1 or 2 years, and to get to 80% completion of a 1-year program, you'd be, if you only have 2 semesters, you'd be 50% completed halfway through your program. You would never meet that 80% threshold to be able to be an award recipient. Similarly, for a 2-year program, even after a 3rd semester, you'd still only be 75% of the way on your credential attainment, and so would never be eligible for the program. So we did see in the first year and in the second year that many of the TCSG institutions forfeited the allotments that were provided to them. Fortunately, other institutions in other sectors did take that money and authorize it and allocate it to other students. But there was significantly less participation in TCSG because of this 80% threshold barrier. Similarly, USG and private post-secondaries also ran into that same problem, that with a typical 4-year program for students, and the fact that most institutions package their financial aid on an annual basis, so they'd be looking at the possibility of awarding these completion grants at the end of a student's 3rd year, and they typically would only be 75% complete at that point. So we heard from the institutions that that 80% threshold also was problematic to be able to fully utilize this program. And so most of the awards that were issued were likely in the second semester of a 2-semester academic year. Other causes that were cited for underutilization were, in some cases, an insufficient number of students who met other eligibility criteria, insufficient financial aid staffing to administer the program, or limiting the use of these grants to direct cost of attendance. Recommendations for program changes that we received from our financial aid offices was to reduce the completion percentage threshold, to relax the direct cost requirement, or to increase the lifetime maximum award. In the report that was provided to you, there is a lot more data broken down by sector, broken down by actual institution in utilization. And we provided some additional information on, as I spoke earlier, on the number of credit hours earned by students who benefited from this program. All in all, we believe it's been a success, and it's certainly allowed more students to cross the finish line and get out into the workforce. And we have been very proud to administer this program for now 2.5 years, coming up at the end of the 3rd year. And I'm happy at this point to be able to answer any questions of members of the committee.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, President Riley. I don't want to demote you. The committee have questions on this report? You garnered a few. Is that Representative Honor? You're 2, right? Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Riley, for coming again. I always enjoy when you speak and give us this important data. I was wondering if this is the same data from last year with the forfeiture amounts, or has this been updated recently?
That is the final report for FY 2024.
Okay, and have any changes been made on educating the schools on this so they know to utilize this money?
Absolutely. We've been communicating frequently, and thank you for that question specifically, that in the next 2 weeks, we'll hit a deadline where students that have institutions that have funds that they may not use this year, they will notify us that they are available for other institutions to take advantage of before the end of this fiscal year. So they know that use it or hopefully share it so it isn't just lapsed back.
Thank you.
You have a couple more questions, but just to do that, this would be toward the end of the report, right, President Riley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Right. So we're seeing the forfeiture, if you will, the unused money, as the President said, primarily in our TCSG that have the less than 4-year programs in many cases, which is we're gonna address in the bill that we have next, and which this committee has addressed 2 years prior, but has hit bumps in the road by picking up some additional language into Senate. So that's why we're going to try to do it early and clean this round. Number 17, is that you, Representative Park? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Riley, thank you certainly for your leadership and service. A few questions. I certainly appreciate the report, this bill. I think it's continuing to move in the right direction. But ultimately, we're also trying to address the needs-based aid type of issue with this bill, correct? For me, I tell me why we're so focused more on the back end as opposed to the front end. Is there data, for example, in which that 2,500 could ensure that folks are able to enroll and continue to go to school, as opposed to focusing on that 75% or 70% threshold for a 4-year institution?
I thank you very much, Leader, for that question. I'm not sure I'm the best one to answer it. That certainly is a policy decision. I know that it was the will of this General Assembly to provide that last mile funding through this particular program. But we certainly do have other opportunities for students. Our Hope Grant and our Zell Grant offers opportunities for students without any merit-based requirement. We have other loans and grant programs that do as well. But this particular program was focused on that completion component.
If a student in a four-year program faces financial difficulties, let's say in year 2 or year 3, are there additional hardship-related grants that can ensure that they're stable to get across, or would they still likely fall under through the net that this is trying to provide?
This bill would not be available, or this program would not be available to them because of the threshold requirement. The bill that Chairman Martin is seeking to consider would reduce that threshold and would potentially provide earlier opportunities for students to take advantage of it.
Are there other existing financial grants and opportunities, let's say in a year 2 or 3, where a student is facing hardships that could assist them and get them over that initial hump?
Today's Student Finance Commission does not have a specific program based solely on need.
And then the last question, if I may, have we obtained a fiscal note in terms of, it was $10 million at 80% for both USG and TCSG. Now we're decreasing the threshold to 70% and 40%, 45% for a 2-year program?
Thank you for that question as well. There is no fiscal note because it is capped at a maximum of $10 million. And if I may, I would like to correct myself on the answer to the last
Yes, please.
previous question. The dual enrollment program, which our students have taken great advantage of while in high school, has no merit requirement and is available to students at any public or private high school without regard to income or merit.
Thank you.
If I could, Representative Park, to go with that, the reason we came with this, and we did it, if you will, you refer to it as the back end, which is fine, across the finish line. I've heard it as Georgia State University had something that I believe still in process. Some other schools in the both the USG system and I think the Technical College system of Georgia have foundation-led programs with their specific institutions that helped people finish. Just getting that last mile. We heard many times where if you were just a semester away and you left, the odds of you coming back were less. I think I'm right when I say less than 50% that you would get back into it. So we felt that was the first and best place to get the return on the money. Hearing you about what happens if you have that happen in year 2, I think there are other types of grants. I mean, this comes into place after the Pell Grant, for instance, if you were using that, or certain student loans, or some even scholarships. I mean, you could have hope and still run into something if your financial situation was dire, that you might avail yourself of this completion grant to get across the finish line. So this is not meant to be the ultimate catch-all, end-all for everything, but the best place to deploy the money and to get the most impact as we get started, to believe in that. But I appreciate it, and I thank you and the colleagues, all the colleagues on our House higher ed that have worked with this. Number 26, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank you for bringing this program to us. When I first heard about this program, I got all excited because there are so many students that are out there need just that little bit of money and they cannot get it. And I do agree with you, Mr. Chairman, that there are institutions, my institution has it so that if the money from the grant runs out, that our foundation and all can put in money as well, and alums can put in money. I think this is one of the best programs that I've seen us come forward with. I wasn't in the legislature when the Hope Grant started, but I was there when the Hope Grant started. So I commend you for what you're doing and trying to get all this money in so that these young people can graduate and can become productive citizens here in our community with our help.
Thank you so much, Representative Jackson. You've been a strong supporter of this and many other of the higher ed financial aid programs, and we're very grateful for the impact that you've made in your district with your post-secondary institutions.
And I'm just going to say ditto, but thank you, Dr. Riley, and thank you, Chairman Martin. What I'm really amazed and really want to point out is that we've got 95% passage of all the classes that are taken in this completion grant program. For me, as an educator, I just see that as a phenomenal key factor of why this program is exceptional, and we should do as much as we can to get folks across the finish line.
Thank you so much, Representative Glaze. We too agree that it is outstanding to see the amount of credits that are earned, and that says to us that the students that are receiving these grants understand the value that's being invested in them, and they are not, disregarding that responsibility.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you, Miss Riley, for being here. Just a quick question on the making sure I'm reading this chart right. It's basically saying that credentials earned in 24 were 58%. So that's, i.e., it's a completion grant. 58% of them completed. Correct. Are you getting data now from FY25 that maybe some of these 20? You see what I'm saying? Is there a continuation process? So maybe that 43 that didn't complete, did 20% of that, do we get 20% more? Because I think, now while I do appreciate the credit hour stuff, the actual point of it is a completion grant. So if we're hitting 58%, what were we up against before? Was that subset of folks graduating at 10%? You see what I'm saying? What does that look? What are we up against, and is there continuing data to roll in for it?
Thank you very much for that question, Chairman Carpenter. We have not been able to evaluate that at this point. Graduation information is something that we have to receive from a different source, and so we will be having to look at that on possibly a 2-year lag. But we do know that that's important for us to make sure that those students have actually graduated, and hopefully with the extension of the program, we'll have that data available in future years to be able to present to you. And I feel fairly confident specifically with the credits earned out of the credits attempted, that 94+%, that these students are taking it very seriously and they're finding their way to cross the finish line.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. I think it would be too, just as a, I don't know, take it for what it is, words of wisdom, maybe to have some of these kids as part of the applying for the grant, so afterwards write letters of, hey, this grant help me get over the finish line, and we can just put them in everybody's folder. So then they get a real person, a real story behind a grant, and it's not just a number on a paper for us. So I think as the program evolves, it's always easier to ask for money and pull when you're pulling on some heartstrings. So I think, just word to the wise, if that helps.
Chairman, that is an excellent suggestion, and we'll reach out to the post-secondaries and ask that they identify students that we can connect with to get those stories.
Chairman Carpenter, that's an excellent point. I do agree with President Riley that the timing is off when you're reporting money for the end of a fiscal year that ends in June, right, that may have been allocated for a class that happens in the fall that may not be reported for graduation until December. Because if I believe last year it was 58%, had completed. That doesn't mean the other 42% aren't. They just haven't been reported yet. But you bring up an excellent point on the time lag together would be that. I don't see any further questions for President Riley on this presentation. The next item we're going to go to is the I think unless there's something else on our agenda here, that would be the actual presentation of the bill. And I'll turn it over to our vice chair and present that, in which case if there are specific questions related to the bill and how these numbers may get into that, I'm going to invite the president back with me as I present. So that would be the next item that I would do, is I will turn it over to our vice chairman, Carter Barrett, for in hopes he will return the favor and call on me for HB 38. But let me, before I do that, I'm not sure we put a sign-up sheet for speakers on this out there. So while I'm moving to a different spot, if somebody, if you wish to do that, if we can get that done, we'll all get it rolling at the same time. With that, I'm going to step away here and call on the vice chair to take over, and I'll present from down here.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. I understand that you're going to be presenting on House Bill 38 today, LC number 610053, if that's correct.
It's more comfy chair.
Very good, sir. So it's House Bill 38, LC number 610053, right?
Yeah. We ready? Yes, I have 610053. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, committee members. I will give a brief description of the bill. I think we've heard it before, but just for the audience, what we intend to do in this bill was to have it be a completion grant. It was originally passed, as we heard in our earlier presentation, for a 3-year trial program. At 70% of credit earned, you would be eligible, and it was silent to the 2 or 4 year program. We've since figured that a 2-year program, if you're 70% finished, you're probably already in your last semester and don't have a real opportunity financially planned to include this. So you will see the bill, much as you have seen it the past 2 sessions, on lines 17 through 20, that just move the 80% completion down to 70 for a 4-year program. So essentially, if you're finished with 3 years or about that, you can in your 4th year you can take it, and then for a 2-year program, 45%. So if you're essentially finished with your 1st year, we can help you in your 2nd year. Those are the 2 changes in order for eligibility. The 3rd change, and the change that is new this year, because I'll draw to the committee's attention, on line 25, this sunsets June 2025. So failure to act by this General Assembly this year is going to have this at minimum create a year without, and it could in fact be hard to bring back. So I failed to say, but from the chair, but I will echo this if I may from here. Normally, I would not ask the committee to take action on its first reading or first look at our first meeting, if you will. But there is indications that if we can move this forward, it might move through the process early enough for system units in the university system and the technical college system and our private partners to use it and plan it, so that as they plan to go through semesters, we may not have to wait till the signing period after the legislative. Again, I don't write checks the governor has to cash, but there is some potential that if moving it actually has an impact. So with that, we're just trying to right size it so folks can use it, and we're trying to move the sunset out for another 4 years. Ideally, I think we've seen it. Just a single member of the House, I think we've seen it. It's going to work. I would be comfortable taking the sunset off. But in fairness to our Senate partners and the governor and people that do have to sign the checks for this, we are adding a difference. We're saying 45% of the 2-year program. We want to see how that works. So I think it's most fair to get a couple of years of data of that under us before we maybe take this away, and it's something, take the sunset away, to be clear, not take the completion grant away, to take the sunset away and let people really be able to count on it as they move through the process. So with that, I I know it's been brief and as far as an introduction to it, but if there are questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, if Chairman Carter Barrett would be inclined, if there are speakers after that, I would hope you would consider taking action this evening.
Very good, Chairman, and thank you for your always thoughtful approach to things. We do have a question. Whip Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Martin wanted to, publicly say, thank you for your leadership on this very important issue. I plan certainly on voting yes to ensure that the program continues at least until 2029. Can you just provide a little additional reasoning in terms of, the 70% for a 4-year program as opposed to 45% for a 2-year program? Certainly, I think that will address the TCSG utilization. But, again, I would personally love to see 45% for a 4-year program as well. Is there any reason why we're bifurcating the two?
Well, yeah, to answer your question, yes. The idea is to do it where they're in their last year. To be honest, Representative, you and I have to take equal credit or blame on this. We both sat and approved the bill when it said 80%. And we were looking at 2-year programs. I mean, if you're 80% of a 2-year program, you're through the middle of the last semester. I don't know why. I mean, I stand here before you as embarrassed as anyone to say I don't know why I didn't notice that. But nobody on the House committee nor the Senate committee nor anybody thought about it. So the idea, the way these are, is so before you go in your last, you've proven, you've put your shoulder to the wheel. You've done well. You're completing. This is a completion grant. You've proved, sometimes you talk about needs-based, merit-based. I would consider this, certainly, if you will, needs-based. There's no merit financial requirement for it, but it's absolutely also merit-based. If you finish 3 years toward a 4-year program, if you finish 1 year toward a 2-year program, that's good. So that's where it is, to get folks in their last year and help them get across the finish line.
Thank you.
I appreciate your support and willingness to help us move this.
Chairman Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to follow up on that question. This is a one-time grant, is that right, or can you apply for it multiple
You can
times?
apply for it multiple times if you need it. The maximum is $2,500. So if you
That's
were to
right.
get $1,000 and that got you through a semester, and you only were able to, you had 2 or 3 classes left, and that got you 2 classes, and you had 1 more, you could apply for $500. The maximum is the $2,500, but it could be multiple awards. Am I correct? Yes.
Okay.
President Riley is saying
thank
yes.
you for clarifying
The
that.
maximum number is $2,500. You can get multiple tranches, if you will.
So I guess my point is no need to back it up too soon. They'll run out before they finish. I mean, this is a completion.
Well,
right?
that's the idea, and I mean, I understand Whip Park's willingness to take this back further, and perhaps when the money is bringing good results for our students, and certificates are completed, degrees are completed, and the value is completed. That's good. That's a good use and good investment of our resources. Yes, sir. That's somebody calling in to speak for it remotely, Mr. Chairman.
Let's go with Chairman Mathiak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the appropriate time, I'd like to push a do pass.
Perfect. We have a few more questions, if that's all right. Representative Glaze, you had a question?
Chairman Martin, I absolutely agree that this is probably one of the best things we've done in Georgia to get our folks across the finish line, and we're going to see, I believe, some great statistics in the years to come. I wanted to ask about the indirect and the direct costs. Will the $2,500 be allowed to go to indirect costs as well, or is it just going to stay in the direct cost area?
Can I allow, they handle that with rules.
Okay.
So if the chair will allow, I'd like to defer Chairman Barrett to President Riley to speak to the rules on what are applicable expenditures that would qualify.
Perfect, President Riley.
All right, thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Glaze. You are correct. Today, the program limits the application of the awards to direct cost of attendance. However, if there is direction for us to do something different, whether in statute or administratively, we certainly could consider something different.
Thank you, President Riley.
And if I might, at the risk of, overcomplicating an issue, the reason I would suggest we don't change that in statute is we're running against a hard deadline on the 30th. Right now, I think we have the Senate and the governor's office comfortable with the numbers we're getting back. They can administratively open the funnel toward those expenses. Also, money is fungible. If somebody has car trouble and can't pay their tuition, they can fix their car and get the tuition paid if they're done. I mean, it could be the other way if they've paid the tuition. I'm not even sure that a school, I'm not going to say that this could happen, but I wouldn't be surprised that they couldn't get a refund on their tuition if they had paid it, if they were approved for this. Probably not for last year's classes, but, if things. So I think our presidents, our financial offices are working really well with the students to drop this in. So I would be hesitant to make a statutorial change and be ever so trusting in the governor's office and President Riley, along with our presidents, both public and private partners, to continue to administer, get good data, and then we can expand that if need be. But otherwise, sometimes things just work out, as President Riley said.
Very good. Representative Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is mostly a logistical question. It might be one for President Riley. My not concern, the overjoy of this would be that when we've changed the 80% to 70 and to 45, which I was also in the room not doing the math when we passed this the first time, our utilization likely is going to go up, particularly at the technical colleges. Is there a concern then that we're going to see students at the university, the number of students at some of our universities who were able to take advantage of this completion program won't anymore because we'll have spread our resources?
I'm going to let President Riley come in. My understanding is they allocate it according to a formula. And we see a lot of 2-year allocations at the TCSG being returned now. Mm-hmm. So that same allocation would go forward, correct? So what we're going to see at this time next year, should this pass, what I think you will see is there will not be money being returned. Okay, so it's being allocated to them now, and then when they don't need it, it's being returned into the pot for others' use. We may well see it oversubscribed or fully subscribed next year, in which case we would have to deal with that during the appropriations process. But it is not because the TCSG, the 2-year programs, were not able to use as much. I don't think their allocations were cut back. They were still given, and then they've been really good about returning those.
Excellent. So if we do find that this program is fully subscribed or oversubscribed in the future, we are going to have the opportunity before the 2029 sunset date through appropriations to consider increasing
this doesn't speak anything to total appropriations in the bill. It just speaks to the 25. Yeah, if the House and the Senate and the governor concur, I mean, we could up the amount in this appropriations process. Again, I'm not suggesting we do that, but we could do that.
Great.
We wouldn't require a statutory change in this bill.
Fantastic.
Very good,
okay?
Mr. Chairman. Excellent. We have no further questions, but I understand we have some folks who want to speak to the issue in the audience. Is Corinne Schooley here? Welcome. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and members of the committee. My name is Corinne Schooley. I work for an organization called Achieve Atlanta, and we serve students in the Atlanta area to access, afford, and earn post-secondary credentials and put them on a path to economic security and upward mobility. And we are here to support this bill. We support it based on firsthand experience. A key part of our programming is a scholarship for students with financial need. We support about 800 students a year to go on to college, and they go to 4-year, 2-year, and technical colleges, mostly here in the state of Georgia. And actually what we have found is that about 15 to 20% of our students run out of our scholarship before they're able to finish. And so we launched a completion grant program back in 2020, very similar to what the state does. For our program, students who are within 1 to 2 terms of completing their credential are able to qualify for up to $2,500. This is all sounding familiar, right? To be able to complete their credential. We have the experience of a few more years of data, and so we're seeing an 87% completion rate. I know that was a question about the state grant. So we're very supportive of this bill. Our students benefit, but our private dollars can't extend across the state. So we really appreciate this program and the sort of technical fixes to this to expand the program. And we see it not only as a benefit to the students, but a benefit to their workforce. And I know there have been some conversations about sort of who all should get access to this need-based aid. And we see this as a great way to target to students who have already made it almost to the finish line and help get them those extra dollars to be on a path to enter the workforce. So thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mrs. Schooley? Thank you very much. Is Ashley Young here? Mrs. Young? Please introduce yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ashley Young. I'm a Senior Education Policy Analyst at Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. I first just want to thank the Vice Chair and the Chair. Today, Chairman Martin, we've been on this journey for a little while, and I appreciate you bringing this bill back. I know it has had some bumps in the road, and I do, again, we are in favor and would like to see this bill pass this year. I do want to say that I would ask for this committee to really strongly consider taking action. Whit Park mentioned this a little bit earlier today, but supporting a bill that would provide comprehensive funding for students beginning in the first year that would be renewable. This would absolutely address college affordability in Georgia. I have just 2 quick reasons why I stand before you today to say this. Georgia's third in the nation for student loan debt per borrower. And around 40% of our students here in Georgia are Pell eligible. So this is a very serious matter. Again, at GBPI, we support this bill. We are excited about this bill. We would love to see this bill pass. We are also asking for the folks that have the power to change and address college affordability that you strongly consider this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, Chairman Mathiak, I guess this would probably be a great time for a motion. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? There be no further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Congratulations, Chairman Martin. On the rules.
I want to thank everyone for being here. We will, a couple of announcements here, and I know it's the hour's late. Normal meeting time will be Monday. I'm sorry. English is my second language today, I think. Our normal meeting day will be Wednesday at 1 p.m. So we'll start doing that next week. I want to, as we finish up today, I think Miss Valentine was right there. She's gone now. Brittany Valentine is in our office. The committee will remember Miss Valentine for last year. I want to introduce our legal counsel, new legal counsel over here to my left. Anna Forrester will be working with us. Our interns for the committee that will help us is Terrence Fernandez. He likes TJ, so we're going to go with TJ. He's on the front row. And Ellie is not here. We'll get to her when she's back. She's a little bit under the weather today. So I want to thank all those, and I always forget Molly Aziz to my left. She outranks the vice chairman and myself in terms of getting the committee ready. So we really appreciate all those. We appreciate all of you. We have a lot of work ahead of us. But we can do a lot of good things if we work together and we communicate. So I'm thankful for each and every one of you. I appreciate the time today. Be careful going home. if you're inclined, I think that city that Representative used to be mayor of is having a little event down the street that people might enjoy some hospitality. But with that, if there's no further business before the committee, we'll stand adjourned without objection. I see none. Without objection, we're adjourned.